The hearing of the Board of Zoning and Building Code of Appeals is now called to order at 6:30 PM on June 17th?
July.
No, July, I'm sorry, what, August. Whew, man, where am I at? Let me look at it. August 21st, how's that? At 6:30 PM. Must have been that joke. I ask the recording secretary, please call roll for attendance of members of the board.
Mr. Pilato,
Yes.
Mr. Shalko,
Yes.
Mr. Iafreda.
Present.
Also present is Chris Hall, our building official. All persons in the audience are required to sign in if you're going to speak this evening, and I take it you did? Okay. And I'll be swearing you in also. Rachel, is there any comments, or the board, is there any comments on the minutes of July?
No. I'll move that we accept the minutes from July.
And I second that motion.
Thank you. All persons wishing to speak on the issue will please raise their right hand and confirm the oath. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will be given before the board is the best of your knowledge and accurate and truthful presentation of the facts? If so, say I do.
I do.
Thank you. Could you just state your name if you're going to speak for?
Do you want me to come sit up there now?
Yeah,
or-
come on up, yeah, for a second, yes. If both of you are going to. I'll let you state your names.
Okay. My name is Bill Hamilton from North Coast Signworks.
Thank you.
And I'm Dennis Dick from Vitiligo Homeowners Association, president.
Okay. The rules of the board require affirmative vote of 3 members in order to pass, regardless of number of members present at the hearing. The hearing is conducted in an informal manner to review the evidence and to respond to questions. However, there is an outline of steps that we will be taking in order. The appellant does not have to be present for the board to hear the case as public. Each case number will be the appeal of the case and is announced and its turns arrives. The first case number tonight will be, I don't know why, I can't find it.
704, 702, 704.
It'd be 702 and 703, correct? Nope,
Approved
704.
minutes.
Yep, those are approved minutes. Yep, thank you very much, Dick. Case 704. Will the zoning inspector now please state the city's position?
The Board of Zoning and Building Code Appeals will hear a request for an area variance for the Villa Lago subdivision. The variance request is to section 1179.07G. There shall be a maximum of 2 signs to identify a residential project whether single or multifamily. 2 signs are only permitted when the development contains 2 separate entrances. Villa Lago has 1 entrance. The applicant is requesting a variance to have 2 signs when only 1 is permitted.
Does the board have any questions of the city? I guess the only question I have,
Correspondence.
yeah, I'll take the board first. The only question I have, and then we'll do the correspondence, oh yeah, thank you about that. There was 2 signs originally,
Correct.
correct? And that was before the code has changed.
Yes.
Okay. Rachel, was there any correspondence to any neighbors?
No.
And
So then, let me ask a question to the city. There were 2 signs. And then the code changed, so that means those signs were grandfathered in?
No, these are new signs, so they have to adhere to today's code.
Okay, so.
the old signs you were talking about were
Were
grandfathered
grandfathered.
in.
I don't know if they were grandfathered or not.
Okay. All right. Anyhow, let's go on and we'll go from there. We did that. And I will let you present your case to the board.
Okay, again, I'm the sign guy, right? So There were two signs, they were on large walls. The development was not designed with that boulevard, that center strip, to have something there. It was designed with flower beds, which are still existing on either side. So it was designed to have those two signs flanking. I know that the code has changed, I understand that. But at that point in time, when this development was put in, it was designed to have that kind of setup, you know, with the two signs flanking. I completely agree with the code, you know, especially if it's gonna be something new. We've gone back and forth, Dennis and myself have gone back and forth. That island is just, it's not big enough. It's just not big enough to get a double-sided sign in there safely.
How wide is that island?
24?
No, I think it's about 40, 42 inches, something like that.
Okay,
I could add a little bit to that, if I found my notes here. Yeah, the center island having a double-sided sign was brought up by the planning commission as a potential solution, so that's why we're addressing it. The island's width I have here, about 42 inches, is too narrow for proper signage with adequate road clearance. So with our present design, with a column on each end of the sign, if you place that on that center island, you'll have 6 inches to the edge of the curb on each side, 6 inches. Now, there was one nearby us that was designed for a double sign in the middle, and theirs is like 85 inches wide. I mean, just to give you a comparison. So the idea is that, you know, we have long vehicles coming into our development, school buses, trash haulers, landscapers with long trailers and whatever, and trying to make a turn into there. You know, somebody cuts it a little too sharp, the sign being on the island, you have it right here. If the sign is set back here, so it gives them a little bit of room, but if they cut that too sharp, that sign is gonna be damaged and who knows what else damage it'll cause. Nowadays, or if we had a wider island, you know, they would just run up over the curb like the one I mentioned. It has much more clearance to the edge of the curb.
do you have a problem now with people running over this island? It looks like in this picture here, that there's a little sign sitting in there. I mean,
It's on that's a U-channel sign that's there, and I'm sure that that's been replaced a couple times.
yeah,
I'm pretty positive that has been, because.
But I've seen tire marks over that curb too, so I know they
It's
do.
it's a very hard turn. I ride the school buses, and I know what you're saying.
You know, and the other aspect of it is if we did put something, let's say we settle on this and we put something inside that island, being so far set back with not having the visibility of cars coming east-west going down Highland Drive or Highland Road there, people might slam the brakes just to make that turn, because it's going to be sitting further back, not where we're talking about proposing to put it.
well, it's basically like our city service sign. Did you see our sign when you pulled in tonight?
No,
Well,
we can talk about that later.
well, that's what I'm looking at right now, okay? It's, this sign, your sign would be going east to west if you put it on that island, okay? I guess the big problem is code, is only one sign, because you only have one entrance. All right, so that's something that we have to look at.
Yeah, but I'm with Dick, I mean, I hate to penalize people for improving things, so.
Let me ask a question. And I'm on your side with the turn.
Okay.
This, to me, seems, that's a good sized sign. Will it set all the way back where the signs are existed now?
The signs that are existing now are on U-channel stakes that somebody pounded down the ground. Okay, so there's evidence of where the wall was. So yes, it's gonna be pushed back into that landscape because that landscape was designed for those walls. They will be pushed back there.
Okay.
And we can stake it, and then if we need the committee to come out to verify, by all means.
We had, the way this whole thing came about was about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. Our stucco on the front of we had a 40-foot wall on each side, roughly.
Right.
The sign was a little oval in the middle. And the stucco was all cracking. We had brick toppers that were all moved from frost. There were no footers under these walls, by the way. And so, and then also there were lights that weren't working, and we had these big globes on there. But anyway, I'll make a long story short. They started trying to pull the stucco off and to repair this stuff, but then it's a cinder block underneath, and there must have been water seeping in for 25 years in there, and the cinder blocks just started disintegrating, falling apart. We even checked several other places on the other wall, on the other side, same thing. So the decision, I wasn't on the board at the time, but the decision was made at that time that we're gonna, if we try to repair this, it's just not gonna work. They decided to tear them down. So we tore down these two 40-foot walls. And what we're proposing now, that was about, I don't know the exact measurements, I'm guessing 40 feet by about 4 foot high. 2 walls was about 320 square feet. We're going down to about 98 with 2 columns for each sign and a 20 square foot sign. So we're cutting our square footage way down from what it was. The only thing is the timing here, we had to tear those walls down like a year and a half ago, and we're just now having the funds available, although we wanted to do it sooner, but we weren't able to.
I read in the minutes of the planning commission also that when you tore the walls down, that was a homeowners association decision. You didn't need any permits or anything from the city.
Well, they worked through a contractor, I know, and I don't know how many people you'd have to poll to get, more than about 10% that know that if you tear something down, you need a permit. I didn't know. I mean, a lot of people don't know that. So you count on the contractor, and if he didn't get a permit, nobody ever showed us that they checked that there wasn't a permit either, so
Right.
you're assuming, which you may be right, but that was this decision then, and so our contractor used the money we were gonna use to repair it to tear down the walls, and we had to pay him some extra as well.
So I thought.
So that's how it came about.
Maybe I read that wrong, but I thought it was for the signage that's up that there's no permit.
No,
It
the
was the
signage
wall.
that was there was no permit to tear it down. The
Oh,
homeowners,
okay.
okay, that's what would happen, okay, that's what they were going for. I mean, going back to it, I understand what you guys are saying, this is a beautiful sign.
Thank you.
Okay, I do think so, okay, the problem I have is, we also as a board have to look at the next person that comes or development that sits down and they want 2 signs and they only have one
That's the
entrance.
actual sign.
And all of the entrances now that have one entrance and they only have one sign, okay? So this is case by case, as we always call it, okay? So in that part, I understand, but you have to look at our point of view also, because there are developments out there with one entrance and one sign.
So-
Okay,
Can't be very many.
well,
There was also
may be
a
right.
question in some of the readings that I had, that the sign didn't meet the current code and it would have to be slightly revised. Is that correct?
size-wise.
Size-wise?
Chris, I don't know if you want to address that, or you want me to address the size, the square footage of the sign, and I'll do it. The planning commission had Bob Franz, I guess, do his reporting, and
Right,
and
Brian.
quite frankly, he made an error. Chris and I were on the phone one day, and we were double checking that, and he said it was 76 square feet above the 50 allowed,
Correct.
and it came out to be about 49.12 per sign, which is with the columns, at front of the columns, and the sign itself, and the caps. So we were within the square footage originally. We just didn't know it because there was a mistake made.
And I believe he realized that error when you read the planning commission minutes. They only discuss
Oh, the one?
an additional sign,
Oh,
not
okay.
square footage.
Well, I have on your schematic here, drawing, 28 square foot for each one of your,
Let's see that.
You know, I realize that's not.
Okay.
That's 28 inches, this is a 28-inch square column, square, not square feet. So if you multiply out the 28 by 28 by 74 3/8 for the total height, it comes out to about 14 square feet, or about 28 for two of them, so.
well, let's put it this way, if it is 28 square foot and he's correct or incorrect, you're gonna have to go back to the planning commission, they're gonna tell you what size.
It is a 28 square
No,
foot,
it's-
there's no
it
foot on it,
is-
it's 28
it
inch
is-
square.
It's just a,
28 inches, just looking at square feet.
Okay,
So the height by the width of that column actually is 14.46 square feet. Multiplied by 2 gives you 28.92 square feet, plus the 20.25 square feet for the
so we're
sign
looking at,
will give you 49.17 square feet per sign.
Right.
And so it's within the required 50
Yeah,
square feet.
Okay.
thank you for clarifying that.
yeah, that's good. Well, I took it as square foot.
Yeah, well, I wasn't
Okay.
sure because they.
That's what I'm looking at, and I think Brian probably thought the same thing if he looked at this.
Right.
But anyhow, going back to what I was saying, okay, you know, whether there's one development or 40 developments, okay, with one entrance and one sign, it's the same, okay, for the board, that's what we're looking at. And also, I said the sign, it's a great looking sign, all right? You know, I thought the recommendation that Brian gave you about the island, that would be my suggestion on it, because you're seeing the sign east and west coming down.
Can I cover that center island? You don't mind?
Could you cover it?
I mean, talk about it?
Yeah, definitely. As soon as I get done
Okay.
going through mine, and I'll let you
You're in
talk.
charge.
Definitely. Yeah, and like I said, I mean, you know, Brian's our planning commissioner for the city, and I mean, he does a great job, all right? And he does come up with some good ideas, okay, and it gets around everything left and right.
and if I can just interrupt real quick, I
Go.
know Brian.
Okay,
I know him very well, because I'm gonna see him on Tuesday down in Richmond,
okay,
so.
That's
I've known him
great.
For a very long time, so.
that's perfect.
So, yes, I agree with you, he does work with.
You know,
us.
and we're also looking at what's realistic in a lot of different ways, okay? Like I said, if you saw our city sign when you came in, it's basically set up the same way out here. And you can see this going north and south. And looking at your picture of the island, all right, is there, what code is it, how, the width of that island? Is there any stipulation?
No.
Okay, so
Whatever
they-
was approved
so-
in the very
Okay.
beginning of the development.
So this is 42 inches, and you said your columns here are basically 36 of your footer, correct?
That's a footer, yeah,
Okay.
the 28-inch square.
And this is 28 inch on top, okay,
Right,
on your sign.
so that's about, what, 12 inches, so it's
Yeah, you
about
got a
6
foot on each
inches
side.
the
Okay, so if you put it in your island, you have one sign on both sides, okay, where you have signage, instead of trying to go with a variance on two signs for one entrance. But that's any other comments?
Well, the only comment I have that I don't know how true this picture is to scale, but if these are showing the exact positions, you're almost getting closer to the road with the placement of the sides.
Well, of course, it is just, it's a Google.
Yes, I know.
Right.
So.
So we would stake it, obviously.
Yeah, I
We
mean,
would have to for oops and all
Right,
that.
but we're here to just say if you could have two signs or not, that's all we're doing.
Right.
So my question is there, if they were to have the two signs, does the area of the sign change, or it's just they get two signs that meet the regulation, whatever it is?
Two signs that meet the code of 50 square feet
So your sign's gonna be half
for
the
each
size.
sign.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, I,
So if these signs, let's say this sign is 2 feet by 4 feet, it's gonna be a 1 foot by 2 foot sign.
Well, what's the purpose then? At that
Well,
point, you know,
that's-
I know.
That's what we're talking about, okay? So, like I said, if you take this sign and put it in that island, this is how nice the sign's gonna look. Your other signs that you had up there, and I don't remember them 100%, but they weren't that big,
No, they were not.
okay?
The sign.
Your wall was big,
Right.
but your sign wasn't big. Okay, and at that time, it was code. At this time, it's not code.
Right, but I still see it as, except for the removal of the walls, I mean, they're improving the condition of the place. And
Correct, but-
That's the way it was when it was built, so.
I don't see a
that's-
difficulty, that was what I'm
The
saying.
difficulty is they
There's
can't
one
meet
you're used to seeing.
the current
That's the old one.
The old,
standard from the way it was designed when
Much
it was
smaller.
built. To me, that's what the difficulty is. Because if somebody went to do it now, or they're gonna have to, they would have to meet the current code.
correct.
This met the code when it was put in, so,
At the time, yes.
yes.
But now the current code is one sign instead of two.
Right, and they would still have the walls with the signs up if there wasn't.
Chris, let me ask you, can I,
Yeah, go ahead.
Chris, is there a code that this center island is so far back? Is there a code that says it has to be so far from the road or whatever? And
It's
that's,
probably designed in the original plat.
Right.
and they had two signs, and that's why it was back.
No, usually what they have, when the original drawings or the original plans, they're set back so much for sight, okay, when you're pulling in and out and everything else. I mean, there's gotta be,
I'm not sure, because if you look at the reserve at Northwoods, it
Yeah,
actually
it's a
comes
little
out
different.
into Valley View
Defer-
Road just about. I'm
so
not
this
sure.
one is right here now, okay, and like I said, I mean, you know, if you did put the sign there, you're still gonna see it going east and west on Highland Road.
Well, you're gonna cut the visibility of traffic somewhat because the angle's gonna be sharper. Because it's set back a little more than where the signs would be.
The visibility of traffic,
Yeah.
east and west, you mean?
Either way, like traffic's coming this way, you know, the sign is if you can see the island right here.
Correct.
The sign is gonna be there and back.
Yes.
So you're gonna have a sharper angle here. If it's over here, you're gonna have a longer angle, so it'll be visible from here. You'll probably have people scurry, they might see it later and they have to scurry into the turning lane if that's where they wanna turn.
Well,
But I still wanna ask you a question. What about
Go ahead, I'm
longer
sorry.
vehicles turning in there? Buses, tractor trailers, or whatever.
well, you have the
Trash
island there
haulers.
right now, okay,
There's
so.
no
it-
sign to damage.
Yeah, well,
And I mean, it's school buses too. You know, and maybe they're the ones I've seen the rubber marks going over the curb. Now they're gonna be kids involved if something happens. I mean, I don't know what, in wintertime, what, is he gonna slide?
I guess
over?
you'd have to go back to planning commission and ask them if you could redo the island then. If that's what you feel that it's happening, okay? You know, I was having a discussion with Chris before, and I understand where you're coming from. You know, today's day and age, you know, 15, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, I'm gonna agree with you 100%, okay, as far as looking for signs and signage and this and that. Today, if you wanna go somewhere, and this is something, you know, we haven't really talked about, but I get my phone and I punch in your address and it takes you right there. I don't need a sign anymore. So I'm just saying, this is what I would say most people do anymore, okay? So besides the point of where the sign's gonna be and what you want, I'm just saying, you could find anywhere you wanna go today with the GPSs we have in our phones.
Can I rebuttal that?
Sure, go ahead.
This is my livelihood, okay? There's a reason why speed limit signs, stop signs are out there, so you could say the same thing. You could just have your car going, and it will tell you how fast.
I understand, you're right.
So,
My comment, the only thing I'm trying to say is not the detriment to your livelihood, okay? What I'm saying is if there is a sign there, or it's covered with snow, or it was not even there, okay, you can still get there with your GPS, all right? The signage, I do like it. I don't have a problem with it, okay? That's part of our board, okay, what we do, all right? All I'm saying is for visibility, okay, and everything else, the comment that Brian made in the island, I kind of like myself, but that's me. It's the rest of the board you have to talk to about it also, okay?
I appreciate that comment.
You know, I know it's code, only have one sign for one entrance.
I printed out the intent of this section we're talking about in the code,
Yes,
and there's one thing I wanted to read from it. It says, ensure that signs are located and designed to reduce distraction and confusion that may be contributing factors in traffic congestion and accidents, and maintain a safe and orderly pedestrian and vehicular environment. So, I guess, you know, what we're talking about here with these turns especially, but also the visibility being less than it might be with the sign on the ends, like we're asking for, is the cause of increasing the risk of accidents and mishaps in traffic. You know, people are gonna miss it, like, and they're gonna turn around and cause some disruption to traffic. I don't know how much, but that just seems like we're not really going after the right intent here. That's what they say it is, the intent of this, you know?
Well,
it's also the practical difficulty, okay, of having one sign or two signs.
What's the
And what is
difficulty
that's my question to you. What is the practical difficulty?
of having one? That's what we've just been talking about, but having the two, it's, you know, you've got a busy street, Highland Road. You've been on Highland, I'm sure you all have, and it's a
Yep.
very busy street, and you're gonna have one, you know, a sign in the middle that is gonna be less visible soon enough for people that are gonna cause them to do whatever, you know, miss it, or have to turn around, come double back. And then that's not including the turning safety of these large vehicles, which,
Well, we're
I mean,
not,
the thing is, if this center island design entrance was never designed for a center island sign. It's just too small. And it just seems to me,
and when you say too small and it wasn't designed, what, is that the board, the homeowners association, or is that just your opinion, or, I mean, as far as code, it's okay to put a sign in there. So,
regardless of what happens, right?
yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I mean, the initial intent of probably the developer, when he did it back in the day, was obviously to have the two signs, and that fit within the code. So that's why the island's smaller than, we'll say, some of the other islands that are out there, the boulevards and such. You know, so it was designed for that. This wasn't. So I guess what we're really trying to ask for is that we know that one sign fits. We know that. We're just asking to have two. So we're just asking for an additional. And to put it into existing flower beds, to balance everything out. So that's why we're here, is to ask for that second. And sir, I respect you. I respect, I mean,
That's why we're here talking, okay? I guess my question is if you're approved with two signs, one for each side, okay, and they're to code, all right, of 50 square feet, am I right, Chris?
Yes.
Okay, do you have
Per.
the size, not per,
total.
for total, okay? What size are your pillars gonna be and what size are your sign gonna be?
That's included. The pillars are part of the sign footage.
I understand, but you're only gonna have 25 square foot per side.
It's pointless.
No, I
It's
don't,
pointless.
I don't understand it that way.
You're allowed to have
50
50
per
square
sign.
feet
Per
per
sign.
sign, inclusive of the supports.
Total,
That-
Per
Per
sign.
sign.
per sign, okay, okay, my fault.
So, yeah, we go back to that original.
Then we're going back to the original. Board, anybody have anything to add? Do you have any more to
I'd like to
add?
just add one thing, the whole intent, I think, of, and I read this whole intent section,
Correct.
which is very good, by the way, is to try to, you know, reduce and control the signage to some degree. You're limiting colors, which is a good thing, I think, and we picked some very basics to make a simple but elegant sign. That's thanks to Bill.
It's a great sign, like I said, I mean, I think it's beautiful.
But, I lost my point here now. Do you need me to tell you a joke? No, maybe, but, well, let me get back to my notes here. I had put here what the advantages are, and why we needed the two signs. Oh, I know what it was. The intent was to probably limit unnecessary signage. Like you mentioned, our walls, they were 40 foot long on each side. And these, I have some pictures of some other developments that have walls galore. I mean, you know, and it's overdone. It really is by today's standards. And I agree with that, but the intent is to reduce the overall signage and make it more attractive what we do have. And the signs that we had before in the past that unfortunately we were forced to tear down because they were just falling apart, was roughly 320 square feet, including, I estimated the height on average because it was up and down, but the height was roughly 4 feet by about 40. And with two walls, that was like 320 square feet. We're gonna have, with the columns, the signs on both sides, we would have 98 square feet. 70% less. So I mean, yeah, it's not one sign, but it's sure a hell of a lot of reduction. And I showed you my old sign.
Yes.
And this is what it's gonna look like. It's gonna beautify the city. That's a great sign. This is hand carved, you know, Villa Lago. Who's Italian here? You know,
Well, I don't know.
Villa means house, Lago's lake.
Thank you.
House by the lake.
Yes.
And we've got like simulated waves here from the water, and then this hand carving on the back in black is like a shimmering of the water. I mean, it's just a beautiful sign.
I don't think anybody at the board has said that it wasn't, okay?
know.
It's a beautiful sign, all right? That's not
Yeah,
what
that's
we're
all
here
we're
for.
asking is to add that
If we're
beauty
voting
on
on
the
that,
side.
then it'd be 100%, hands
Yeah.
down,
Yeah.
okay? The chairs, anything else? Do you have anything else to add to it?
You did mention one thing about widening the center island.
Well, I didn't mention that, but that's, I guess, something you could do.
As a possibility, but,
You really don't have to for the size of what you have, okay? The center island
well,
doesn't have to be
we're just
wide.
an invitation to accidents then. It's too close. I mean, the curb is here and 6 or 8 inches away is the sign, you know?
Even if you widen it and they go over the curb, if you widen it another foot on each side,
Well,
if they go over it, they're gonna go over
You can't just widen the
it.
island, you're gonna have to widen the whole lane, you know? So it's, I had that in my notes as the cost is so absorbent to do that it just wouldn't be worth it, you know, for the added cost.
That would be on you as a homeowners association if you wanted to add it. Okay, like I said, right now, code, you can put this in
Did you
that
have any
island.
other suggestion as to, other than the center island sign?
Not, if we go by code, one sign, that would be the only, okay? But like I said,
But we can,
I guess
we
if
can
there was-
figure out, if, you know, again, getting this variance to do the two. And that's what
Yeah.
you
I-
guys decide upon.
gentlemen, you have any other questions? I'm open for motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept this as submitted. I think the difficulty is that the code changed and it was designed. We don't know what traffic studies or what was done in the designing of it, and I think it's an improvement to the area. So I would move, so my motion is that we accept it as submitted.
I second that motion.
Rachel, will you take a roll call, please?
Mr. Pilato?
Yes.
Mr. Shalko?
Yes.
Mr. Iafreda?
Yes.
Case 704 has been accepted as proposed and is passed. Gentlemen,
Thank you. I
put this
appreciate it.
beautiful sign up, okay, and make sure you get it permits and do what you have to do,
It's lit,
okay?
isn't it?
This way.
It's gonna be lit.
It's
isn't it?
ground lit, correct?
It's gonna have the spotlight on the sign, and we have a couple of LED lights underneath the caps of the columns, so it'll look real nice.
You
I
know,
I really appreciate you gentlemen I really do.
It wasn't well designed when it was
No.
incorporated.
No. And we don't
Like I
know,
say, I ride the school buses not as a driver, but as an aide. And it is a tough turn. And especially the buses can't go in that little cutout to make the turn. They turn from the center line.
And this really has nothing to do with you because you're doing signs, okay? You're contractors, and if you do get other contracts, here's my suggestion is to find out if they're bonded here in the city, okay? You can call Chris or Nino up and they'll tell you exactly what's going on, and you won't get hammered for different charges that you shouldn't get hammered for.
Well, I do believe that when you build something new, you should get a permit.
Well,
yeah.
It's just a tear down, I think, is not well known by people.
And again, yeah, I mean.
One other question too, thanks again for the approval.
that's okay.
The planning commission already has everything we've submitted.
So we don't, so all we're doing, we just said you could have two signs. We're done. Any, you gotta
So
go back to
you
them.
notify them of that decision?
That's on you.
Yeah, they'll get notified, but then you work with them for everything else. This
Right.
is, all we can say is,
Email me
you asked
something.
us for two.
Well, that was the only issue that they had.
Well, then you go back to them and,
You came here for a variance, and we
Yeah.
gave you the variance.
that's all we can do.
You're welcome. So now it's up to you.
Spread the word.
Thank yous.
All right.
That's all we need from you this
I
evening.
appreciate your time.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Pleasure.
Thank you, sir, appreciate it.
If you have any questions about anything, here's the gentleman to call, him or Nino.
Yeah.
We're in touch.
And just call. Believe me, it's a phone call away, okay?
I appreciate that. That was good candor back and forth. I really liked that. I mean, I really did.
Thank you. That's what we try to do. Look, we want everybody to stay here. We don't want anybody to leave, okay?
It's still 3:45.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it is. All right. We did the motion, recording secretary, we did the roll. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn this meeting.
And I'll second that.
Meeting is closed. Thank you very much, everybody. I thought